A very good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a warm welcome to everyone, especially to our honorable speaker, Encik Ibrahim Arifin, to our highly spirited president of the Malaysian Oil and Gas Services Council, or MOGSC, Puan Sharifah Zaidah Nulisha, the EXCO members, working group members, and all who have allocated a portion of your time today to attend this webinar. This is our first webinar for this year from the Alternative Energy Working Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all this afternoon. So at the same time, we'd like to thank SEDA, or the Sustainable Energy Development Authority, for accepting our invitation to deliver a talk to the MOGSC members on the Malaysian energy transition. We hope that this webinar would be a start of many future discussions to lead Malaysia into the new low-carbon future. And I think there's going to be some house rules, so just a quick reminder before we proceed, here are the house rules for today's webinar. First of all, please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras during the presentation. And at the end of this webinar, you will have the opportunity to switch on your camera for a photo shoot. Next up will be, please type in your questions into the chat box if you do have any. Right, the secretary will pick it up and they'll pass it to me then. We'll collate the questions together, then I'll pass it to Encik Ibrahim. And then finally, have a good time. Now, as we race forward to a new energy future in which the transition might be a little bumpy, safety must never be compromised. And for that, let's watch a safety video to remind us of this.
Hi, I'm Michelle Yeoh. As an actress, I've been in many dangerous situations on screen, but I always get to walk away. In real life, though, most people don't. So when you're in your car, follow these safe steps and help save lives. Multitasking whilst driving is dangerous. Never take your eyes or attention off the road. Keep both hands on the steering wheel at all times. Don't eat or drink. Leave your mobile phone alone. Stay focused and keep the music down. We all have a role in road safety. Follow these safe steps and play your part. For more road safety advice, visit safesteps.com.
All right, so that's a very important safety message that we should all take to heart, especially since we're almost back to normal, right? I think most of us have actually been experiencing lots of heavy traffic on the road, and the usual traffic crawl has also returned. So keep your eyes on the road. Do not use the mobile phone when driving. It's a reminder also, not only to you but also to myself, and as well to always be safe when you're using the road. Okay, thank you very much, Secretary, for that timely reminder. Now we move on to the next item on our agenda. I'd like to invite the President of the Malaysian Oil and Gas Services Council, Ms. Sharifah Zaidah Nulisha, to offer her opening remarks. The floor is yours, Puan.
Thank you, Amran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Berusaha Encik Ibrahim Arifin, Director Energy Analyst, Strategic Planning Division SEDA. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon to all MOGSC members and attendees to today's event organized by MOGSC Alternative Energy Working Group. First and foremost, of course, first things first, it's the new year, a brand new year 2022. So happy new year to everyone attending today. And here is wishing everyone that this year will be a better year for everyone. And moving ahead, we'll have better prospects and better health, wealth, and happiness. MOGSC is very proud to work with SEDA today to bring you this installment of the Alternative Energy Dialogue series. Amran and the gang, Mohan and Raja, has been very actively bringing you all this dialogue series that has been very fruitful and very informative to our members. And this one, like the others, have promises to be a very engaging discussion on the Malaysia Renewable Energy Roadmap. So for those who does not know that we do have, who questions whether Malaysia has an energy roadmap, well, here it is. We have a Malaysia Renewable Energy Roadmap, or in short, because we love to acronym everything, MyRER. I hope that's how we pronounce it. Malaysia is not only aspiring towards ambitious renewable energy commitments, but through MyRER drafted by SEDA, it also details the strategic framework for achieving these goals. So through MyRER, the government hopes to provide the guidance to the industry players on directions that we will take for the national renewable energy deployment. And through Alternative Energy Working Group, MOGSC aims to support the oil and gas industry transition to the new energy future with net zero by 2050 being put as an our national oil company, which is Petronas. Hence, in this regard, we are happy to host this dialogue with SEDA to help MOGSC members understand and navigate Malaysia's energy transition roadmap ahead. And furthermore, we hope that this session will spark ideas and find opportunities for OGSC players in Malaysia's new energy landscape. I would like to thank Encik Ibrahim Arifin for sharing the government's renewable energy vision with us today, and I hope that everybody will be able to make the most out of this opportunity to engage with our speaker. Please do ask the questions. I mean, Malaysian is known not to be able to ask the questions. Without asking the question, you'll not know where you want to go. So if you are still shy about speaking out, then just put your questions in the chat box. Again, I say this nearly every month. Kudos to AEWG chaired by Encik Amran and Mr. Mohan and Raja, together with all your team, and gracefully supported by MOGSC Secretariat led by Rohazli and also Sophia, for organizing this event. Yet another very informative event. But for others, do join the MOGSC Alternative Energy Working Group. I think Amran described me just now as spirited. I would say that he is like more spirited than me in organizing all these activities. And please do join our next working group meeting if you are interested. We will email a meeting notice when the next meeting is planned. And if you're not on our email list and have not been receiving our email blast, do let the Secretariat know and we can add you to our email database. Because it's January 2022, a friendly reminder for MOGSC members, please make sure that your annual membership fees, it has been paid to us to continue helping us to bring these free webinars and events to you. And just to remind that MOGSC has proven to be a beneficial platform with more than 400 plus events completed in a year, bringing you all the latest news, information, and being the voice of our industry and representing the OGSE landscape, the biggest representation for the OGSE landscape from upstream to downstream. Now, if you're unsure of your membership status, please do contact the Secretariat and we will be able to liaise with you. And for those who are not MOGSC members, I highly encourage your company to join MOGSC as a member. The fees are superbly reasonable for the amount of networking that you will get and information that you will get. And we do have value-added services that we provide. Do get in touch with the Secretariat on how to register as a member. And again, do follow us on our MOGSC social media accounts, as latest information are regularly shared in our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram accounts other than our website. For your information, we have a weekly update, a weekly newsletter update that will be given to you once you register with us. Thank you everyone for attending. For our Chinese members, Gong Si Fat Chai, and hope all of you will have good takeaways to bring home today. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Amran.
Thank you very much, Sharifah. You're always the one to keep our motivations up. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's webinar is on an important topic, energy transition. It's safe to say that without energy, nothing can work. With no activity can be executed, right? So, on a scale of a country, energy supply and consumption are the basis of the country's economy. with the growing awareness of climate change and the impact the sources of energy have on it, countries all over the world have entered into a race looking for ways to supply energy while keeping to a low carbon future. Hence, it is a wonderful opportunity to have Sustainable Energy Development Authority, SEDA, to brief us on Malaysia's energy transition and renewable energy roadmap. Our speaker today is a well-known face at webinars on energy. I've attended a few webinars on energy, and I usually see Encik Ibrahim's face over there. He is Ibrahim Arifin, currently the Director of the Energy Analyst of the Strategic Planning Division of SEDA. His role involves advisory on areas aimed to facilitate the growth of Malaysia's renewable energy industry. Prior to SEDA, Ibrahim was a senior grid planning engineer at Tenaga Nasional Berhad, where he was involved in managing the integration of renewable energy projects into the national grid system. This has given him the exposure to technical, commercial, and governance aspects of existing RE mechanisms in Malaysia, including net energy metering, feed-in tariff, and large-scale solar. So without further ado, then, let us welcome him. Encik Ibrahim, you may start. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamran. So, Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. Puan Sharifah Zaida, Mr. Rohazli, MOGSC members and attendees. So first of all, I would like to express my humble thankful because of having us to be on board to this eventful webinar sessions. So within the next 30 minutes, I will give an overview of the Malaysia energy landscape. And when we're talking about energy in this context, it is more in terms of the power sector energy rather than the total primary energy supply. So with this context, I will try to, within this 30 minutes time, I will try to share with you the overview of what's going on and where are we heading in the next 15 years. So first of all, thank you for the introduction, Cik Amran. So if I may, I have just a short brief on the SEDA Malaysia itself. So SEDA Malaysia, or Sustainable Energy Development Authority, we are actually the statutory body under the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, KETSA. And these are our key functions, but I would say that in brief, that our role is to facilitate and drive the renewable energy growth in Malaysia. And on top of that, when we're talking about sustainable energy, it actually covers the two perspectives, which is on the demand side, when we're talking about renewable energy, and also on the demand side itself, when we're talking about the energy efficiency and energy conservation. So when we're talking about sustainable energy, it covers the both sides of the energy sector, which is on the demand and supply side. So in my presentation, I will embark on two sections. The first one is an overview on why we need to go for these energy transitions, and following from the global trends and the global actions with regards to the climate change. And the second one, I will deep dive into the Malaysia context of the renewable energy landscape. So first of all, this is just the key motivations on why we want to pursue on the sustainable developments. These are the three main drivers, which is the first of all is to maintain the level of comfort. So whatever we have today, we want to make sure that the next generation and the next generation can also enjoy similar, if not better, level of comfort in terms of accessing to the energy itself. And next, on the drive cost optimizations and efficiency. So this is also a very critical component, because as we know that the cost affordable electricity will lead to the ease of doing business from foreign or local players, and it covers the whole paradigms of the end users, including the domestic sector, commercial, industrial sectors as well. And on top of that, with the current agenda of the global agenda, the environmental preservation is the key address of why we need to go for this sustainable development. And all of this is to strike a balance between the famous that we call the energy trilemma, in terms of balancing all these three paradigms: the environmental benefits, the socio-economic benefits, and also the system security itself. So in order to develop the sustainable energy in Malaysia, these three perspectives need to be hand in hand, and to strike a good balance to make sure that we are able to provide good and reliable green power to all. So this is just to reiterate this report by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, back in August 2021. It says that the current global situations is never as worse as today, and we can see that this report has been publicly available for people to download and to understand better on the climate situation at the moment. So it says, if I may summarize, that the climate conditions at the moment, it says that the 90% of the main driver is human influence. It driven by our key activities, governing from the transportation sector, industrial process, building, land usage, and also the energy itself. So in particular, I would say that with the recent flooding issues in Malaysia, this is also one of the, I would say, sort of the summary of what's coming if we are continued with our business as usual business. So to avoid the worsened climate crisis, actions need to be taken. And when we're talking about the action needs to be taken, it is cross-sectoral and it's cross-ministries, because the contributions to these success stories of the climate actions is depending on the concerted effort by all players, all sectors. So as we know that back in 2015, Malaysia also has committed to reduce its carbon intensity economy-wide against the GDP by 45% in 2030 from the baseline of 2005. And Malaysia is also part of the 196 countries that already committed under this Paris Agreement. So in order to drive the agenda of going in delivering the national commitments, United Nations has also come up with this sustainable development goals, and in particular, the power sector is aiming to for these 5 SDG, and in particular, directly is on the affordable and clean energy. And by this, we also will enable new job opportunities, new sectors, new growth of industries with regards to the service providers of the renewable energy itself. And this will also contribute to the economic growth post-pandemic. And this also will further trigger and spur the industry innovations, sustainable cities, and also the climate actions. So if we're looking on this target itself, like Malaysia is committing to reduce the carbon intensity by 45% from the baseline of 2005. But unfortunately, I would say that from 2005 until 2015, the trending is not going down, but it's actually going up. So with this, with the commitment in the Paris Agreement in 2015, more attention, more action have been taken to make sure that we are able to deliver the targets in 2030. And hence, recently we have also launched the Malaysia Renewable Energy Roadmap, but I will further elaborate on this item later on in my slides. So, as mentioned, that carbon emissions contributed by all sectors. And when we talk, looking on the global trends, these are the 5 sectors that usually contribute the most in terms of the greenhouse gases emissions. Agriculture, forestry, and other land use follow in short. Industry, transport, buildings, and energy. So if we're looking at the energy itself, it contributes the most, but at the same time, it also has the largest potentials for decarbonizing and contributing towards carbon neutrality. So if you're looking on this trend, these are the global agenda and global private sectors are aligning their strategic path towards sustainability. So if we're looking in the Malaysia context, the few national giants, including Petronas, Tenaga Nasional, Maybank, also have committed to go for net zero emissions by certain years. 2050 are the typical years that most organizations or countries aiming for. And this also looking at the regional and also the global trend, we can see that Malaysia is not standalone in terms of this initiative. We can see that a lot of companies also aligning the directions towards ESG compliance and towards this sustainability. And if we're looking at, in particular in the global trend, that most companies that already committed on the net zero emissions is coming from the oil and gas companies itself. Shell, Total among the few companies that already spearheaded the sustainability agenda with regards to the in terms of contributing towards this climate action. So kudos to also Petronas, because I believe like in Malaysia, Petronas are the first company that committing to this net zero emission in 2050. So following from this, like previously in Paris Agreement is one commitment, and based on the Prime Minister announcement last September, that Malaysia is also embarking on this net zero emissions journey. and we are aiming to achieve this net zero emission as early as 2050. But I would say that currently the planning is still in the formulation phase, and one of the Ministry of Environment, the KASA, Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air, currently the ministry are planning for the sectoral targets in terms of achieving the Paris Agreement target and also the net zero emission target in 2050. So look forward for more in terms of the sectoral targets and sectoral directions in terms of achieving this target. But at the moment, this is based on the previous engagement, previous targets, which is the Paris Agreement 2015.
I think Cik Ibrahim is muted.
Oh, have I been muted for a long time?
Tak, sekejap.
Okay, so with regards to the electricity supply industry, we need to understand from the both perspective on the demand side and also the supply side. So just now when I mentioned about sustainable energy, it also covers this both paradigm, the demand side and the supply side. When we're talking about the demand side, we need to think about energy efficiency and energy conservation on how we want to optimize our electricity usage and how we want to further improve the quality of our electricity consumptions. And when we're talking about the supply side, it's always about the renewable energy contributions in the energy mix. So first of all, when we're talking about the demand, we anticipate that there are roughly about 2% of annual demand growth driven by economic activities. And with looking at the total numbers of the demand on the each sector, we can say that the industrial are the most is the highest energy consumers in terms of electricity. And when we see the contributions of the industrial itself, this is also the biggest contributors of the greenhouse gases from the demand side itself. So if we are only to tackle the supply side, when we're talking about renewable energy, we're only focusing on the supply side. But if we continue including the supply side, renewable energy on the supply side, but doing nothing on the demand side, it might be offsetting each other and we might not go to where we aspire to be. So with regards to the demand side, on top of this natural growth and the demand growth of the driven by the economic activities, initiatives have been taken, especially from the industrial processes. They are also looking in terms of how they want to further optimize their consumptions and how they want to make green of their businesses. And on the supply side, if we're looking on this number, my apology for quoted quite an outdated numbers, but this is quite similar with what we have today. If you're looking about 90% of the electricity supply still relying on fossil fuel. And if you're looking on the figures, coal and gas are equally contributed as much, about 40% from coal and 49% from gas. And only 11% is coming from hydro and renewables. But however, this is mostly driven by affordability itself. The reason why we embark on the coal is back on to make sure that the electricity tariff can maintain at an affordable rate. And if we are to shift away from coal and if we are to shift away from gas, this will have a significant implication on the electricity tariff. If we are benchmarking with regards to countries with relying on high renewable energy, such as the United States and Germany, they are facing with certain social implications when they are pursuing for a higher growth on RE. So with regards to developing the sustainable energy in Malaysia, we need to take into account the lesson learned from the other countries and to develop the national plans accordingly with regards to the energy trilemma that I mentioned earlier. So if you are looking on the trending with regards to the energy input in Malaysia back from 1978, for example, the power sector are heavily rely on petroleum products, including the oil and diesel. But if we are looking the 10 years after, we are reducing the reliance on the petroleum products and we are moving towards natural gas. And this is also with regards to I would say that in particular in 1990 when we are embarking on the industrial era, there are higher growth on the electricity demand, and this call for a more efficient and more affordable source of energy, which is the natural gas. And due to this, we see that the reliance on petroleum product has been reduced and been replaced for a higher reliance on the natural gas itself. And as we are moving forward, we are mixing on the energy mix by introducing more coal in the energy systems, starting from 2001 with the commissioning of one of the largest coal plant in Malaysia, which is the Jana Manjung in 2001. So this is also, if we see that moving from 2001 onwards, coal is also one of the dominant fossil fuel that contributed to the power system, mainly due to its affordability and also the concession between the countries that Malaysia export the coal from. So if we are looking at the current years, 2018 and today also, the coal and natural gas is quite balanced in terms of it mix with in the power mix. And on top of that, we also start to introduce more and more renewable in the mix as well. So if we go further deep dive into the region, as Malaysia is basically focusing on the three regions, the Peninsular Malaysia, Sarawak and Sabah, I would say that in Peninsular Malaysia, we are still relying on the oil and gas. From today and until 2040, we're still relying heavily on the natural gas. But we are shifting away from oil and in particular diesel itself. For now, I would say that the diesel is mostly on the alternative fuel for several power stations and more in terms of for the rural electrifications. In where the gas pipeline is not reachable, usually the diesel are the solutions opted for by the particular places. So in Peninsular Malaysia, we can see that the oil and gas take-ups in the power capacity mix is increasing over the years, and this is also dominated by coal as well. And in Sarawak itself, but Sarawak, I would say the landscape is a bit different. It's a bit different in which the power sector is mostly supplied by the hydro. If we know that the Bakun and Murum itself is supplying most of the electricity demand in Sarawak, but they also relying on the oil and gas as a backup supply for the energy system. And for Sabah itself, Sabah is still relying on natural gas, and the renewable energy in Sabah is still at the low rates, as they don't have any large hydro plants, they don't have much on the solar farm itself, but they do have some bioenergy in place to supply at certain areas of the state itself. So if you're looking on these three perspectives, we will say that the percentage of national capacity, 80% is contributing from the Peninsular Malaysia, and the second one is on the Sarawak region, and Sabah, based on the current local load itself, local demand, is contributed about 4% of the energy supply to the power sector. So if we are looking on the recent power development plan for Peninsular Malaysia itself in 2020 by Suruhanjaya Tenaga, our counterparts, these are the overview of what's coming in the next 20 years. So if you see from the mix, the top chart is more in terms of the new plant up or extension of plants, and the below parts on the plant retirement. So if we see from year to year, there is a mixture of the growth of the new plant up and also the plant retirement. So if you see from the chart that the post 2021, if you see that 2024, 2029, 2030, we still have a new gas plant up in the pipeline. And for the power sector itself, for every power plant, usually they are embarking on a commercial arrangement via the power purchase agreement, and the term is usually about 21 years. So with regards to this, we can say that for the plant that is commissioning in 2030, they are still will be contributing to the power system all the way until 2051. So looking at the growth itself, I would say that in terms of 2040 and 2050, when we're aiming to realize the net zero emissions, gas in particular will still remain as one of the dominant sources in terms of meeting the electricity demand. And based on the numbers also, we can see that the renewable energy itself is contributing quite significant amount from year to year. And by having this also is part of the initiative to decarbonize the power sector and paving the pathway towards a low carbon energy system. So with regards to the potential itself, under the Malaysia Renewable Energy Roadmap study that we did in last year, we assess, and based on the inputs from the industry players itself, we can say that the Malaysia have a lot of potentials with regards to renewable energy. In particular, these 5 resources, the solar PV, the large hydro. The large hydro is usually defined by a hydro plants with a capacity of above 100 megawatt. And bioenergy, and when talking about bioenergy, this also in line with Malaysia position as one of the main palm oil producers. We have a lot of palm oil plantations in Malaysia, roughly about 400 big palm oil mills. And from these palm oil mills, we can also harness its byproducts, which is the empty fruit bunch and pomeh, for example, as part of the energy mix in the renewable energy coming from biomass and biogas. And small hydro and geothermal as well. Geothermal is relatively small compared to other resources, but we do have the potentials, and if we are able to kickstart the initiative, we will foresee that more mass deployment of this technology can be explored. So with regards to the capacity itself, so if we look at the numbers, for example, like solar PV, this also have been taken into account the potentials of ground-mounted solar, floating solar, and also the rooftop availability with regards to the solar deployment. And with looking at the number itself, is about 269 gigawatt. Just for your enlightenment, if we are combining the electricity demand of all regions, Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak, currently the maximum demand is about 25 gigawatt. So when we talk, there are a lot of saying out there that we are going for RE 100%. So looking at the potential itself, it is not something impossible. We have the potentials, but we have the potentials to meet the RE 100% in meeting the electricity demand. But in order to realize this, we need to strike a good balance between the energy trilemma that I've mentioned in my earlier slides. So with regards to this, personally, I would say that coming from Tenaga Nasional Berhad itself, like when we did our long-term planning, I would say that the going for RE 100% may have good impacts on the environmental targets, but it have certain complications with regards to the affordability and also the system security. So if I may quote some events recently, for example, in countries like UK, for example, United Kingdom, previously they are also like relying heavily on renewable energy, but as of end of last year, they have again initiated the initiative on coal and gas plants to make sure that the supply can be maintained at the better reliability factors. And also in India, for example, when they are pursuing for a higher renewable energy growth, they are jeopardizing the reliability of their electricity supply, in which they are facing about almost daily of load curtailment daily basis. So these are the few concerns that we need to learn from the other countries as well, while developing the national plans with regards to the sustainable energy development. And with regards to the also there are a lot of things happening globally, and in particular in European as well. Like recently, they have also tried to propose the nuclear and also gas to be as part of the green investment, because this is also another concern from the financial sector itself, as the capital are shifting away from fossil fuel, focusing more on the green investment. This also has some implication with regards to the oil and gas sector. But EU has taken a stand to include the natural gas as part of the green investment as well. But however, the EU has been currently facing quite a backlash from especially from the environmentalists and for the pro-RE industry. But this need to be balanced out and need to be tackled accordingly, as we need to make sure that the implementation of the going for the climate action can be realized without jeopardizing any of the existing sector. So as of 2021, I would say that Malaysia already embarking on its 20th year journey on exploring the renewable energy in Malaysia. Back in 2001, we have come up with this one program that is called Small Renewable Energy Power, or in short, we call it SREP. So the SREP is focusing back then, focusing on the bioenergy and hydro potentials. The solar, as we know that the currently when we're talking about solar, when we're talking about RE, usually people just focusing on solar in the moment and in Malaysia. And if I may just share that SEDA also, some people are referring it to Solar Energy Development Authority, but actually it's not Solar Energy Development Authority, it's Sustainable Energy, because when we're talking about RE, it's always there is more potentials aside from solar. As mentioned in the technical potential just now, we also have abundant sources of hydro and also the bioenergy. However, in the SREP program, the solar energy is not really explored during this time, mainly because the price are quite significantly high comparatively with other RE resources and fossil fuel. So after about a decade of the program initiated, only about 53 megawatt of capacity have been realized throughout Malaysia, and this contributing less than 1% of the capacity mix. So let's looking from the progress and identifying the challenges and enablers from the SREP programs, the ministry alongside with other regulators, they have come up with this one thing that we call the National Renewable Energy Policy and Action Plan, NREPAP 2010, in which it pays for a higher targets for the renewable energy. And following from this NREPAP, these two acts have been established, which is the RE Act 2011, and this the introductions of the feed-in tariff mechanism. So if we see at our electricity bills, there is this 1.6% charges to our electricity consumptions, and this 1.6% is actually goes to this one thing that is called RE fund, and from this RE fund, we are able to use this fund to catalyze the RE industry, in particular the identified technologies such as solar, bioenergy, and also hydro. So the feed-in tariff mechanism, FIT in short, is mainly a mechanism to catalyze the RE industry by providing a premium tariff. But this is usually just to kickstart a new technology, and once the technology has become a grid parity and also the cost have become more commercially viable, then it can move to a non-incentive sectors. And aside from this RE Act 2011, SEDA Act 2011 also have been introduced on the same year. This is the establishment of SEDA as a driver on this feed-in tariff mechanism. So after about since 2011 until about 2016, I would say that the penetration of renewable energy has increased quite significantly. From 53 megawatt, we already able to realize about 1.5 gigawatt. This almost quite a significant growth in 2015, and this contributed about 5% of the capacity mix in Malaysia. And in particular, the solar technology itself, driven by this feed-in tariff mechanism, we are able to reduce the cost of installing solar system about 60 to 70%. And looking at the current competitive pricing of the solar itself, the feed-in tariff is excluding the solar from the feed-in tariff mechanism, and has formulated another three mechanism, which is the large-scale solar, net energy metering, and also this one thing that is called CELCO initiative to promote for the solar technology itself. So at the moment, I would say that the solar technology is driven by these three programs, LSS, NEM, and CELCO, whereas the other RE technologies such as biomass, biogas, and also hydro is still under the feed-in tariff mechanism. And as of 2020, December 2020, we have able to realize about 8.5 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity, and this equal to about 24% of the national capacity mix. And moving forward, we are aiming for this 31%, equivalent to about 13 gigawatt, and also 40% equivalent to 18 gigawatt in 2035. So with regards to the details on how we want to realize this 31% and 40%, it is stipulated in the Malaysia Renewable Energy Roadmap that was mentioned. And for all your information, this document is already publicly available. You may go to the website below, www.seda.gov.my/reporter.myra, and actually that's how we pronounce it, myra. You are able to download the full copy of the documents to understand more on what's the initiative plans and what are the capacity mix of the RE, renewable energy, with regards to achieving this 31% and also 40% target. And actually, this also a new target that been set in 2021. Like previously, we are aiming to go for 20% in 2025, but looking at the progress that we have and the agreement by the world standards of including the large hydro in the renewable energy as well, we are able to go for a higher target, which is the 31%. So we see that over these 21 years, about this 20 years of embarking on renewable energy, we are able to have a good mixture, about 24%. But this is also about the capacity mix, and the question about the how much is the capacity mix able to contribute to the actual real-time energy mix. This is also another perspective that need to be looked into. So if you are looking on the RE installed capacity, as mentioned, about 8.5 gigawatt of capacity, mostly are dominated by hydro resources throughout the Sarawak and Peninsular Malaysia in particular. And comes next is about 1.5 gigawatt contributed from the solar capacity itself. And just to mention that currently under the large-scale solar net energy metering and also the Selco initiative, we are anticipating another about 2 gigawatt of solar capacity already committed and awarded for a number of players, and is targeted to commission in the next 2 years' time. So with regards to the SEDA Malaysia in playing its role and to delivering its vision and mission, SEDA Malaysia alongside with the ministry, regulators and utilities also has contributed towards the decarbonizing the power sector, and from the both perspectives of renewable energy and also energy efficiency. Due to the short time, I might able to just go an overview. With regards to the renewable energy, as mentioned, these are the 4 main RE promoting mechanisms already in place. In tariff, as mentioned, that currently we are based on the annual e-bidding exercise, and we are focusing on the biomass, biogas, and also small hydro. And we have the perspective of new technology to be further explored from time to time. Whereas the other 3 programs for NEM, it's a bit the nature of the NEM is basically the installation of solar is any energy generated from the solar system is to be consumed first by the premise owner, and for any excess energy they are able to export back to the grid at certain credit values. And for large scale solar, as per the name itself, is to promote for a larger scale of solar deployments. And currently, I would say 4 exercises have been completed since 2016, 2018, 2019, and also in 2020. 4 cycles of bidding exercise have been in place under the large scale solar, and the total number of 93 projects, or equivalent to about 2.5 gigawatt of solar capacity, have been awarded, and is tentatively will commission by 2023. And under the 4th programs, which is the Selco, this is to promote for self-consumptions. As per the name itself, is only for self-consumptions. Those that participate under these programs are not able to export to the grid. It's solely for own consumption only. And tying with the renewable energy, we also have take some actions with regards to energy efficiency. Mainly, we are providing the facilitations and certifications under the Green Pass programs. We have this one in-house built system, BEDOS, basically to assist commercial and industrial sector in monitoring their energy consumptions and also their contributions towards the CO2 emissions. We have this platform and it's free to use. You just need to apply from SEDA to be part of the users as well. And we have this SAFE 2.0 programs. If you are aware that recently last year we launched this SAFE 2.0, and this year also we have launched this SAFE 3.0. The main objective of SAFE 3.0 is to promote the energy efficient equipments coming from the domestic sectors in particular, and main equipments that includes such as air conditioning, fridge, for example. These are the 2 appliances that have been identified that is consuming most of the energy at the household, and we are providing some rebate scheme to promote domestic users to play a part in terms of mitigating the climate crisis by having a more energy efficient equipment in their household. And on the 4th item, we have this one thing that is called energy audit conditional grants. This is actually a continuous program from RMK 11 since 2016, we are continuing to provide this kind of grants to assist commercial and industrial sector to conduct energy audit at their premises and to identify the area that they can improve in terms of their consumptions and potentials going towards going green. And this low carbon cities actually is also another main activities from SEDA Malaysia. These are the collaborations by the United Nations as well and Japan, the GEF. This is also actually a means to facilitate the development of urban developments towards becoming low carbon cities. So under this initiative, a lot of local councils, for example, DBKL, MBPJ, MPSJ, and also Iskandar region has also take part on this initiative. And as of last year, they have also come up with certain sustainable energy roadmap towards the development of within their districts. For example, for DBKL, they have also launched the sustainable energy transition roadmap that they are trying to impose for any new development. They need to have 30% of their energy consumption coming from clean energy. So this kind of initiative already been in place. Iskandar region also have launched their sustainability roadmap in terms of addressing the urban development, the electricity consumptions, and also the allowable of the transportation within the region itself. So this initiative, as of last year, we have also come up with guidelines in terms of assisting any interested parties towards this low carbon initiative and continuous collaborations with the local councils are in place at the moment. And of course, towards ensuring the success stories of these energy transitions, the manpower are always the key assets. And as part of the role by SEDA Malaysia, we also provide a training from these two perspectives, the renewable energy and also the energy efficiency itself. So feel free to visit our website to understand more on this initiative. And if anytime you are feel free to contact me if you want to have a more detailed discussion with regards to any of these programs. So I would say that energy transition requires a proper transition plan in ensuring the energy trilemma can be addressed collectively and able to realize our national aspirations. So as mentioned, that currently we are still relying about 80% of the electricity demand from the fossil fuel. And if we are looking on these numbers, on the top right, if you can say that Malaysia is currently based on the WEC World Energy Council statistic, that Malaysia is actually at the good position in which we are able to provide a very affordable electricity tariff while maintaining a reliability level as high as the European countries. So these are one of the success stories when we are delivering the electricity and affordability to all. But as we are shifting away from the fossil fuel, for example, this might no longer be a success story for Malaysia, because if we see that, for example, in the UK itself, they are having a same level of electricity reliability index, but their price is almost more than double from what Malaysia has. And also in the United States, for example, if we are benchmarking the electricity tariff of Malaysia with this country, or like United States, for example, their electricity is about 8-fold higher than Malaysia. So it goes back to us that there are a lot of saying that we want clean energy, we want green energy, but the question goes back to, are we willing to pay that high for electricity? So for example, let's say like our current electricity bills is about 100 ringgit. So are we willing to pay about 500 or 600 ringgit per month? So are we willing to pay this much for a clean energy? So this goes back to the public acceptance and public awareness in terms of, if we want to really embark on this green agenda, this is the consequences that we need to face. So a lot of initiative and engagement and public surveys have been conducted by SEDA Malaysia as well to gauge the readiness of Malaysian as a whole in terms of embarking on a further acceleration of the green agenda. So area of concerns, again, it goes back to the stranded assets. So when we're talking about shifting away from fossil fuel, for example, the Peninsular Malaysia Utility, for example, the Tenaga Nasional Berhad, they have invested billions of ringgits in preparing for the grid infrastructure connecting to the gas power plant. So let's say like if we are shifting away from fossil fuel, what happened to this kind of investment? And this will be a stranded assets, and this will have a negative implication on the national economy itself. So this is one of the area that we need to avoid, to make sure that whatever investment has been made need to be able to return the ROI need to be have return in order to make sure that it has a positive spillover to the nation. And next, this also has been dwelled significantly on terms of the impact to the tariff itself. So currently we are able to maintain a affordable tariff, basically since we are relying on the fossil fuel. But if we are shifting towards more green, this have a significant implications to the electricity tariff, and to make sure that the energy poverty is not an social issues in Malaysia, we need to strike a balance between penetrating higher RE growth while maintaining a affordable electricity tariff to all. Job security, for many years that we have already groomed a lot of talents, a lot of skills, a lot of competent persons with regards to the oil and gas sector as well. And this is true not only for the oil and gas service provider, also in power sector as well. For example, at Tenaga Nasional Berhad also, we have few experts, we have few specialists with regards to the oil and gas sector. What happened to these manpower capabilities, competencies, if we are to shift away from this industry? So I would say that moving forward, there are a lot of technologies already in place. For example, the hydrogen can play a significant role in terms of how fossil fuel and renewable energy are able to coexist rather than shift away from one another. So currently, I would say that the game is usually when we're talking about from the renewable energy side, they're always talking about shifting away totally from fossil fuel. And when we're talking about fossil fuel, sometimes they are also like doesn't really favor in terms of renewable energy. But I would say that moving forward, the coexisting is always the best way. So for example, like the hydrogen itself, they are able to utilize the current business of doing things at the moment to provide for a cleaner solution such as the hydrogen fuel, for example. And this is also true for the power system, power sector as well, power stations as well. For example, like as we can see from the projection from the power development plan, until 2014, we still have significant plans for gas plants. But one of the criteria it might need to tackle in terms of the emission from the gas plant itself. So one of the way forward in terms of how we want to make the gas-fired power plant greener is by blending with the hydrogen itself. So as part of this initiative, I would say that Petronas is already embarking on the hydrogen production facility. Currently, there are one pilot projects going in Singapore, tapping from the Bakun Dam. They are trying to produce green hydrogen for the transportation sector. And this will be a stepping stone once the success stories of this pilot project in place. I would say that this will be a stepping stone for a bigger deployment of the hydrogen production in Malaysia. So aside from this, Tenaga Nasional Berhad is also exploring in terms of this hydrogen potentials, hydrogen technology, in terms of blending in with the existing gas-fired plants to make the gas-fired plant more cleaner. So just for your information, with the latest gas turbines technology, they are also already like made ready for a blending of, for example, with the hydrogen up to about 50%. The recently commissioned one plants in Johor Bahru, the Southern Power Grid, Power Grid in Pasir Gudang. The machines is also already like cater and able to accept about 50% of blending with hydrogen and natural gas. So moving forward, these are the kind of areas that need to be explored to make sure that the fossil fuel and renewable energy are able to coexist and at the same time able to address their emissions accordingly. And carbon capture technology is already like been identified as one of the solutions for the oil and gas sector. And I believe that in Petronas is also embarking on a pilot project in Kimanis, Sarawak, Sabah, with regards to this carbon capture technology. So these are the few technologies that already arise with regards to making sure that the gas industry itself are able to address their emissions accordingly with the system on technology itself.
Encik Ibrahim, we already ran out of time actually.
Okay, I will wrap up in 1 minute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this already like my conclusion, my concluding remarks. So I would just like to say that these are the three key takeaways. The first of all is to raise awareness. So I would say that a lot of people are looking in the renewables as a business opportunity, but mainly, but I would say that there are a lot more values in terms of environmental, social benefits. And the next one, in terms of the potential itself, as per the opening remarks by Puan Sharifah as well, they say that when we're talking about renewable, always they're talking about electricity. But if you are in the power itself, but if you are looking based on these IEA figures, I would say that most of the renewables energy applications is actually not on the power sector. It's more in terms of the industrial process via the thermal technologies and also the transportation itself. So I would say that in Malaysia also currently the renewables are focusing on power, but actually the applications and the benefits can be extended into other sectors as well. And the last one on the energy transitions, I would say that usually when we're talking about where we are today and where we want to be, for example, the net zero emission in 2050, usually people just looking at the end games, but the things that need to be really addressed is on how we want to go there. The transition plan need to be properly designed and properly formulated to make sure that all sectors involved are able to take up these directions and able to come up with certain sustainable solutions in terms of decarbonize the respective sectors. So I would say that this will be, I would say in Malaysia, there are positive outlook of RE growth. And in particular, I would say that the renewable energy plan, as mentioned, the 31% and 40%, able to enable social economic benefits. And if you are looking on the cumulative investment, the estimated potential is about 20 over billions for the next 5 years and another 20 billion for the next 10 years. And this also in line with the employment impact. These are able to create new jobs, new job opportunities, new sectors and services. And we are anticipated about 30,000 over number of new new job opportunities up until 2025. So with this, I'll end my presentations. This is my contact info. Feel free to contact me at any time for further discussion. So thank you. And with this, I hand over back to Cik Amran.
Okay, thank you very much, Cik Ibrahim, for the very insightful and very informative presentation. I believe that many people have actually have benefited from it. As you can see as well, there are quite a few questions that have been coming up on the chat box. We do have already come to our 4 o'clock marker. So I just like to check with the secretariat of how much time we have left. I think usually we budget around 15 minutes. Okay, never mind. They haven't come back to me yet, but anyhow, we will ask a few of the questions that we receive, if it's okay with you, Ibrahim.
Yes, sure, Cik.
Okay, so first question that we received is from Faridun Talib. So, Encik Ibrahim, what is the reason that for FIT and NEM, we are not allowed to have battery to store the excess energy from solar panel? Thank you. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this question.
Okay. I would say that the technology is already like widely available, but the key concern is the financial impact, the commerciality of the energy storage. I would say that even though the technology are available, but it's considered as a quite expensive solutions. For example, like at the moment, for example, like solar technology, in Malaysia, the average cost is about 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And if we are to include the energy storage, it can go as high as about 50 cents. So if you can see that the significant energy of this energy storage solutions have it will lead to a higher energy tariff. And this is one area that we are still exploring in terms of how we want to incentivize the energy storage. This I would say that this is the key challenges of introducing the energy storage in the power mix. We have this one program that is called the NEDA, New Enhanced Dispatching Arrangement. This is sort of a non-PPA arrangement, and we are open for solar developers to be part of this initiative as well. But when we are trying to impose certain requirements, for example, to the solar owners need to manage their own intermittency via, for example, the energy storage, they are not able to deliver this kind of initiative. And if I may quoted that under the large scale solar cycle 3, we have also like designed the bidding exercise to provide some merit for any bidders that incorporate the energy solutions, energy storage solutions in their biddings. But out of the 185 bidders, none are able to propose a good tariff if they are to include the energy storage. So I would say that at the moment, why we didn't include energy storage under the FIT, the main reason is that if we are to subsidize these high capital extensive solutions, we might not able to further facilitate other RE technologies. So at the moment, we are trying to go for these low hanging trees. We are able to go for a more competitive price of energy solutions before while anticipating the declining cost of the energy storage. So at the moment, we have some plans up until 2030 for energy storage, but it is more in terms of the grid utility scale level.
Thanks for that. There are two questions related to your the picture on the RE potential map that you had shown regards to the RE potential map in Malaysia. The first question is the 269, I think 269 gigawatts for solar, the max installed capacity, or is it dispatch load capacity? And the second question,
the install capacity.
Installed capacity, right? Okay.
Yeah, based on the install capacity. And with regards to this, we can say that the capacity can be go high, but if we are looking on the actual performance of the solar technology, currently I would say that the highest capacity factor of the performance factor of the solar technology is roughly about 21%.
Yeah.
So I would say this is, if we are to direct translate that this 270 gigawatt of solar capacity is just about 20% can be at the end users.
Yeah, that's true. And but probably as technology advances in the future, we'll see a much higher efficiency, though.
Yeah, true.
So the next question on regards to solar is what's the likely? Looks like the potential energy or potential power from solar is huge, but how do we manage the energy then when the sun goes down? Yakni night time. This is the question from Ahmad Nazari.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmad Nazari, for the questions. With regards to the intermittent source of renewable energy, in Malaysia, it's mostly on the solar. But if you're looking on the global trends, it also includes wind, because these two sources are intermittent source, and they are not really reliable at all times. Unlike for gas-fired plants, coal plants, usually we just switch on and we can able to enjoy the stable output. But this is not really true for both solar and wind energy, for example. So if we are looking at the European countries, usually how they manage on these situations, energy storage. But for Malaysia, at the moment, since energy storage is yet to be available in the market, for Malaysia market, I would say that one of the ways is that we are limiting the penetration of solar at certain level to make sure that the conventional plants, the fossil fuel plants are able to take up when there are certain intermittency problems. So at the moment, based on certain studies conducted by Tenaga Nasional back in 2018, if you see that the solar penetration, currently we are capping the penetration to certain level. For Peninsular Malaysia, we are capping to 24% of the energy mix, and hence all the plannings are based on this limit. These are the threshold before that the electricity supply industry are encroaching into a stability concern zone. And hence, these are the current operational ways in terms of mitigating this kind of problem. And in particular, I would say that if we are looking on these particular issues, there is this one thing that is called the duck curve. And you might able to like Google it up later on, the duck curve. These are the main problem in most of the countries with a higher intermittent source. And as much as possible, the current planning is to make sure that Malaysia does not encroach into this duck curve problem.
Okay, that's interesting. Duck curve.
Yeah, duck curve. It's really shaped like duck curve, and we might able to have this kind of issues also in Malaysia. We have this kind of duck.
Okay. Another question on nuclear pula. Is Malaysia ever going to consider generating energy from nuclear?
Okay, I would say that this is also one of the initiative highlighted under the National Energy Policy. We are to explore for the nuclear energy, but I would say that the current direction is that Malaysia is committing to no nuclear. But I would say that this is more in terms of like sentiment, because like I would say that previously back in 2011, back in 2012, like Malaysia is already like collaborating with other countries in terms of committing for nuclear plants until the Fukushima incidents. So since 2012, I would say that the Fukushima incidents, there are a lot of sentiments, especially from the public itself, that they are not ready and they are not really believe that nuclear are safe. But I would say, looking on the another perspective, there are always two sides of the stories. If we are looking more on details, but I would say that under the national energy policy, these are identified as one of the areas to be explored, because like looking on the, again, if you are looking on the European current narrative, that they say that going for this net zero emission won't be a success without nuclear.
Yeah.
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 So I would say that the European always become the trendsetter with regards to this energy landscape. So it depends on the current directions and how's the public perceptions on nuclear. But if you're looking on these two sentiments, that the first of all, the statement that the net zero emission won't be realized without nuclear, and another one with the current plan of EU to include nuclear as part of the green investment. I will say that once this is already like in place, the capital will shift and the direction will shift towards exploring more and more nuclear in Malaysia.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much, Encik Ibrahim. I'm going to close off all the questions for now. Actually, there's one more question on financial institutions, but I think not sure whether we should do that. But because we've already passed our time now, we're already at 4:10, right? So I will close the question and answer session for now. For those who'd like to ask Encik Ibrahim for any follow-up questions, you may email him. Right, he did pass his contact just now. Otherwise, you can always get in touch with the secretariat, and we'll share with you his contact details. And as he has already mentioned, he's most welcome to collaborate with anyone who'd like to get more information from him. Okay, and so with that, man, this is coming to the end of our webinar today. Thank you very much for attending. Before we end, let us take a quick photo shoot. I don't know, Puan Sharifah, have you anything you'd like to say, Ke?
No. I think it was a very interesting session. The other way can also be emailing the questions to the secretariat, and secretariat can also compile a question to pass to Cik Ibrahim.
That right. Okay. So secretariat, are we ready?
Can we have everybody on video?
Yes. I would like to invite everyone on to switch on their cameras so that we can take a quick print screen. Photo shoot. Sophia, Sophia, please advise us on when you're done. Yes, thank you.
All right, ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3. One more. Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Maybe we will go, Amran, for the 2-day session with SEDA to understand much more.
And I think it's necessary. Even today, I mean, I know it takes
not enough time.
minutes, but
Yeah, within these 30 minutes, quite short.
Right, and I'm sure that many different questions that people would like to also ask in more detail, right? So anyhow, we value feedback, and as some people say, feedback is breakfast of champions. So please send us your feedback so that the Alternative Energy Working Group can improve in whatever way that with respect to our webinars and whatever else that we do, right? We'd like to thank Encik Ibrahim and SEDA for their willingness to come over and give us this very, very good presentation. And I believe this is at least a start for us, at least between MOGSC and SEDA, to get to know one another.
Yeah, we'll arrange for that visit, that courtesy visit.
Yes. And I would like to also take this opportunity to inform everyone that there is a webinar coming up on the 8th of February by our sister working group, Innovation Working Group, if not mistaken, about decarbonization. So the whole thing is entitled Reaching the Sweet Spot through the application of technologies for cost optimization and decarbonization. So you can get in touch with the MOGSC Secretariat to secure yourself a place. Then finally, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to wish all those celebrating next week the Chinese Happy Chinese New Year and Xinyan Kuai and stay safe. And we look forward to meet you at our next event. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Cik Ibrahim. We'll see you soon.
We'll be in touch.
Yes, definitely. Bye.